Yeah, okay, now it's my turn. The Crashgate deciding the 2008 F1 championship. I think that was probably a worse thing than. I think I actually stepped into it a bit too early, but still, if you guys are ready. The Crashgate 2008 deciding the championship. I think that's the worst thing than what happened in AD 2021.
You mean the
Go for
Constructors'
it, Backstein.
Championship?
What happened is okay. Now
They were
I'm basing it
disqualified from
on.
the Constructors. Bernie Eccleston pushed to let the drivers not
No,
affect the
you're
drivers.
thinking Spygate. We're talking
Yeah,
Crashgate.
Oh, Crashgate. Sorry, 2008. Sorry, I'm thinking
Yeah,
Spygate. Yeah. Now
Yeah,
it makes
and,
sense.
the
I
whole
get it.
the whole thing with Felipe Massa going on right now.
You mean
So-
for six-time world champion Lewis Hamilton?
Yeah.
Wolf.
No.
So the point
No, I'm
was,
staying out.
by the way, I'm assuming one thing. If that is not the case, everything will fall flat. I'm assuming one thing, that the old retard is actually saying the truth, where Bernie has actually claimed that it was him, Max Mosley, and Charlie Whiting, someone who actually people remember a lot these days. All three of them knew before the FIA gala, and if they did, they should have. They had the provision where they can cancel
I-
that particular race, and then the championship decision changes.
And that's a very important piece because they had made an agreement that I'm not sure if it still stood in 2021, but the old agreement was always once the trophy's handed at the FIA gala, that's it. Like we're not changing things.
That's
That-
it's why
yeah, that's
Mercedes
why.
dropped their appeal when they did, because they're like, well, the gala needs to happen, and
Yeah.
blah blah blah. So
Yeah,
okay, I don't
Go
agree
for
with
it.
this at all. I don't agree with this at all.
go for it. Go for it. I
I
know you
actually-
won't, but
I nearly said that Felipe blew it in 08, but I didn't. That was going to be one of my options, but he didn't really. I think yes, Crashgate was massive, and it was massively controversial. But the reason why I think AD21 is worse than Crashgate is because this Crashgate was a team cheating, and it was awful, and it should never have happened. And ultimately, I think they did the right thing by basically telling Flavio and Bob Bell Pat Simmons,
Simmons.
You're done, out. Yeah,
imagine
and-
imagine both. I think 15 years later, both of them are back in the paddock. So,
Well, yeah, I know.
so
right?
they're not done. Right?
And running
but-
the same team, one of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they handled it as well as they could. I think at the time when it all came out, and basically Nelson Piquet Jr. had just gone nuclear after being sacked. AD21 was the governing body, and the person representing the governing body dropping the ball. Just now, I'm in the minority when I say this, that I don't think he did it deliberately. I think he made a decision that was catastrophically wrong, but I don't think he was like, nah, screw Lewis, I want Max to win. No, he wasn't like that at all. He made a decision based upon a gentleman's agreement that I think if he'd done it earlier in the season, it would have been controversial, but we're all a bit like, But because it literally decided the championship and cost one guy the championship, I think that's why it was more controversial. Like, yeah, okay, Crashgate did cost Felipe, but would they have cancelled the race result, or would they have just disqualified Ferrari?
Cancel the race
That's
result.
or Renault. Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think they would have cancelled the race result. I think they would
Bernie
have
has said
disqualified.
that. The entire thing is according to the whatever legal.
But Bernie's
body
denied
used.
saying that, allegedly. Like, there's
That's
there's
what I'm
whole
saying.
things. Yeah,
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm
And
assuming
also, let's be
a very
careful how
clear
much
thing that
we
the
take from the
90-year-old
billionaire
retard is
loofah.
actually saying the truth.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I said, let's be careful how much we put on the billionaire loofah. He does say a lot of crazy things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean that's what I'm saying. I'm assuming that's the first basis of the whole thing. If he's
Yeah,
wrong,
yeah.
if he's lying, then we don't even need to discuss it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if he's right, then in that case, as you said, you talked about how the governing body and the person representing it. You had the governing body, you had the F1 owner, you had the person representing it. All three of them conspired not to bring the news up about the Crashgate before the FIA gala.
but that was because they
Compare
didn't have
that.
the evidence. Like, it was
They did.
Nelson
They
Piquet's
had
word.
everything.
Well-
That was, they didn't have the evidence before, post Singapore Grand Prix, the weekend before, the weekend after that. by that time when the FIA gala was supposed to happen, the week before that, they knew everything. Nelson Piquet, the father, the other retard, he had come up and actually talked about it and admitted that this had happened. So that was the whole
Well,
detail.
I don't know. I think there were
By the
other
way, just to get one thing clear, I don't want any championship to change because that's stupid. It's done. It's
No,
over.
yeah.
You
it's
don't
kind
want
of-
that.
Yeah.
But it's egregious. That's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, I mean, so much of this has been twisted, and we don't know what happened. I'm sure the conversation with Nelson and Charlie did happen, but I've always read it that they didn't have the sufficient evidence to pursue it. Now I'm sure somebody will do some digging somewhere, and they'll find out what happened as much as they can. Obviously, Charlie and Max no longer with
I
us.
wrote
So
the analysis piece on it. They knew. I'm telling you. I mean, I write for Sports Kid, so I covered the whole thing. I'm telling you, they knew. I'm sharing the entire details.
I had some beers with Bernie Eccleston. He told me everything. No, I didn't.
But yeah, I just because okay, they knew after the event, but then this was in AD21 was in real time. Like this was, and it was literally, this decision will cost you the championship right now. Like it was the referee, as I said, inadvertently turning the tide of the match. Like it's almost like, let's say.
By the way, why do you think that happened? Why do you think Michael Masi ultimately ended up being in a position where he had to take such a call?
Masi was a Verstappen fan.
Well, I think, as I said, it was because of this gentleman's agreement that they had, that they wanted to finish the races under green flag, and he saw the opportunity to end the race. I don't think he was thinking, "Oh, it'd be great if we had a one-lap shootout. This is going to look great." I think he was just, "I want to finish this race under green flag. I will do what needs to be done in order to do it." And he then circumvented years' worth of safety car precedent. He then, and tried to manufacture a finish
under a stupid rule as well.
Under a stupid rule, without
because it shouldn't
realizing
just say,
the consequences of what he was doing.
I think Article 15.3, I think, still says that, right?
Yeah,
it hasn't been changed.
It has the overriding. Nothing has changed. They've basically what they've done is the thing that happened in the aftermath of AD21 was Toto wanted Masi's head on a platter. That was what he wanted, and that's what he got. Other than that, nothing has changed. The FIA is still a poorly run machine, only gotten worse with MBS at the helm. So, what actually came out of it? Nothing. Oh, look, we have a fourth member.
It's mobile. Yeah.
I mean, they did tweak the rules slightly in that they would make sure that all lapped cars get moved out the way. I mean, then I know what people are going to say. Well, Yuki wasn't moved out the way in Brazil 22, but that's just an error.
Yeah.
And that cost his race more than. Whereas what this did was it put the two championship contenders right next to each other, and it didn't account for the guys whose races were being affected behind them. I'm sure Carlos Sainz would have loved to have had a crack at the front two for about a corner. But he would have loved to have had it, but he couldn't because there were cars in his way. And it just, as I said, it was out of desire to, and he was trying to please everybody, and it just went so catastrophically wrong. And also think about it this way: the eyes of the world were on that race. Like 2008 Singapore Grand Prix, people were watching it because first ever night race. This is interesting. Whereas 2021 had been such a monolith of a season, where it was just like,
Tyson Fury came out and said that cut down with the, I think it was for Lewis or Matt, one of those guys. He said that cut down on the hate for this particular driver. I don't remember which one it was.
Yeah.
So,
there were so many people like. In the UK, they actually did a deal where Sky's feed was piped onto Channel 4, so you could watch it live. So that race had more eyes on it than I think in years the sport had that attention. And then that happened, huge.
Safety car was perfect though, wasn't it? Completely by accident.
Yeah. Anyways, so first of all, regarding Michael Masi, I think the reason why he made that call was this was a man who was under extreme pressure throughout the season. That was one thing. Secondly, the kind of blowback that he had faced after the way Spa ended, where it ended under the safety car and it caused a lot of issues because I don't think they issued refunds to the
No,
fans
that was
that actually
wrong as well. They should have done that.
Yeah. Once that had happened, then there were, I think Toto will reveal later on that on Wednesday of the race weekend, he had a dinner with Michael Masi. And I'm pretty sure Horner had also reached out to Masi. So he wasn't under pressure from both of them. Then there was a scenario of this stupid thing of the public team radio between the race director and the entire. This was a man who was under so much pressure, and at the same time he had this. I think it was from FOM or wherever, where they wanted the season to end on a high, and you end the season on a high when it's a green flag finish.
Yeah.
And I think even if he had been able to get this done a one lap prior, where all cars were moved aside and everything had happened, I think would have faced a similar blowback still. The reason is the driver that they wanted, it didn't fit. If it was not the last lap, if it was the second last lap, would you have been fine?
I would have been more fine with it because that if they'd done through the process properly, moved all of the cars out and set them up properly and done it properly, and then you had 2 laps and you put it on Mercedes and go, you could have pitted him, surely.
I think most reasonable fans would be kind of okay with it, upset that he lost, but okay with it. I can kind of understand
devastated that he'd lost such an incredible battle, and I also think that Max's reputation would be so much higher than it is now. Like, I think people unfairly blame Max for what happened. It's like he was just a professional sportsman who had to do what he had to do. He wasn't just going to go, no, this isn't fair. He had to take advantage of the situation he had. Like,
blaming Red Bull and Max for that is insane, to be honest. It doesn't, like, you blame the FIA, you blame the background and so on. Yeah.
And now coming back to the comparison, you talked about how the race director, the FIA, they made a mistake, right?
But can I just say this is where I was just going to say this is where I would say 2008 is worse, but for one reason and one reason only, which is
they colluded.
Not the outcome. Like, obviously the outcome is probably worse in 2008 if you want to stack it up. Like, I mean, like the actual. The championship wasn't really changed by the outcome, if that makes sense, in 2008. I know you could argue that all day, but Ferrari still messed up where they messed up. Lewis still finished where he finished in that race and so on. So if you continue the race without them and that crash doesn't happen, Lewis probably still wins the you know what I mean?
No, the crash caused Ferrari's mess up.
Okay, right. Anyway, sorry. But the difference I would say is one is corruption, one is incompetence. So for me, corruption is worse than incompetence. Because it's like out and out planning, or not so much planning to do it, like it was planned by the team, but knowing that it had happened and not then changing it. The only thing is, I think, like, Baxter is right on one thing, which is, I don't think you cancel the race in that situation. You just disqualify Renault, right?
I think you cancel because for me, every race weekend, not a race weekend ideally, in every race, every single, you can say a move is probably attached. It's a chain reaction. What happens?
I know what you mean.
Imagine. I mean, if let's assume maybe again, it didn't happen. First of all, Lewis Hamilton fans, it didn't happen. In case Nicholas Latifi intentionally did that crash in AD2021, and 10 to 15 years later, it comes out that he intentionally did it. Then what?
Don't change it. I mean, come on.
No,
you
don't change the results.
The point is that set the entire chain reaction. You don't
so
just
you cancel the race,
him
is what you're saying in that
race.
situation.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, look. Let's just say one thing. The void lap 58 thing was bullshit. Like, you can't just void one lap. Like, you have to cancel the whole race or whatever. I'm not sure in 2008 though. I think. Like, obviously nothing changed. This is all hypothetical because nothing changes. Like, if they said they were giving Massa the championship, I'd be like, that's absolute bullshit. What are you doing? Like, you can't change it this many years afterwards. But I do think 2008, if it's all true that Bernie and Max and them knew about it in the background, I do think that is worse because that's actually like colluding, corruption, like an actual cheating scandal. Whereas I think 2021, as bad as it was, is just sheer incompetence. As my daughter starts banging drums and bins, is just incompetence because they built up a whole season where Liberty wanted them to to basically finish under greens, have this incredible championship, and everyone kind of they built up a situation that was going to end this way. And
There's never been a race director who has been in the spotlight as much as Michael Masi was. There's never been one.
No, true. I mean, 2008, I would say, is that let's hypothetically say they say, right, yeah, here's your championship, Felipe. Lewis can just go.
That shouldn't.
You want to revisit stuff from 2008? Okay, let's have a look at Spa. Yeah, because that whole nonsense of him getting the penalty when he passes, he has to give the position to Raikkonen and then immediately overtakes him again.
The last lap thing, yeah.
On the last lap.
Couple of laps, yeah.
McLaren had been told he can do it, so then he did it, and then they gave him a penalty afterwards.
Yeah.
And then Massa benefited from that massively because he ended up winning the race. Whereas Lewis I think he didn't score any points because of that penalty. So
he came second or third, right? He came second. Lewis came second.
Okay, he came second.
Lewis was given such some seconds so that he can so that he drops one place. That was the whole. He got a 25 second penalty, so that he drops a place to Massa.
Let's have a look. Just having a look at the result.
Oh, it was 25 seconds. It was 25 seconds.
Yeah,
he was third. He was third. So Massa ended up inheriting the win, and then Heidfeld was second.
I think it was 25 seconds.
Another race
right?
that Heidfeld could have won if there was one more lap. I think it was 10 seconds faster than everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
25-second penalty for cutting a chicane and gaining an advantage. Despite giving back the position, is what it says on Wikipedia. So
they were a lot bigger on penalties back then.
They were, yeah. And it's so I think
that time as well. So at least
and
on
also
that front,
Massa's engine blew up in Hungary. On with 3 laps to go or something. And Lewis had a really bad race as well, so Felipe needed that win.
Lewis retired, right? That race.
Yeah, Heikki was benefited because he was the lead McLaren driver.